Today, we'll be deconstructing the talking points of the Red Pill community. This is a community loosely affiliated with a group of individuals who often hold controversial beliefs. These beliefs are often centered around gender dynamics, societal norms, and political correctness. Influenced by elements of men's rights activism and pickup artistry, these individuals often held contentious beliefs about gender dynamics. We'll be debunking 30-minute sections of two of the most prominent Red Pill podcasts and calling out every single thing they get wrong. Also, giving credit where credit is due and showing where the literature does support their ideas. Like and subscribe if you enjoy the video, and we'll be starting off with just pearly things with women's useless role in society.
I kept telling people the COVID-19 did nothing even close to the 19th Amendment. The 19th Amendment was way worse than COVID-19.
Yeah, well, because women will always, even the COVID
the first
stuff,
plague.
COVID.
Letting women vote has done more harm than COVID. I'm sorry, but this is just too radical to engage with, and also there's given no reasoning behind all of this. These kinds of claims need proof since they're not widely accepted. The fact that they don't think this needs proof or don't provide any proof means that they're either talking to a very select few who view this as a common fact, or they're just misleading the broader public. This draws upon a greater problem, assuming Pearl's good intentions, namely the selection bias for people who join these kinds of places. The only people accepting these kinds of reasonings are people who view this as sound premises to draw sound conclusions from, thus forming the basis for a very strong selection bias.
I would argue the COVID stuff is because of women. Because women, when there's fear, women will always pick safety and security over freedom.
Okay, so COVID is because of women. Because women will pick security. Okay, but at the time, the US Parliament was majority male and the president was a male as well. What did women have to do with any of these decisions? Okay, let's be charitable and say that she meant that women were the ones who voted in the wrong people. Also, keep in mind she's against women voting, and I'll take that into consideration while viewing this argument. Okay, so women shouldn't be able to vote because they're more emotional, right? You compare the two normal distributions of neuroticism of the two genders, it turns out that about 35% of the male population is more neurotic than the average woman. In simple terms, about 35% of all men are, as Pearl would put it, more emotional than the average woman. Shouldn't they be banned from voting too, since they're more emotional under stressful situations?
A lot of that reason is because they're emotional and they're not making logical decisions, and maybe they're not as smart as men, right?
Maybe.
If that's true, right?
So women are emotional and not as smart as men. Well, the IQ average is the same. And for the emotion part, I just mentioned it, so.
I would argue there's three ways that you should be able to vote. Number one, military. Fine, we'll give the 5% of women that are in the military, whatever, the right to vote. Okay. Second, net taxpayers. Women are in a lot of debt. I don't think you should get the right to vote if you've taken child support or alimony. And the third thing I would say is an infrastructure job. So if you're doing a job that runs the infrastructure, firefighter, policeman, and if you just do those three things, most women can't vote anyways.
This is just anti-democratic. I don't even know what she's thinking, undermining democracy.
I don't find women's jobs to be as useful or needed in society. I'll give you an example. If we look at the billionaires in society, we have Oprah and we have Elon Musk. Who provides more value? Who's more needed? Jeff Bezos or Kim Kardashian?
If you think that, just back it up with statistics. This is, you guessed it, anecdotal. And what do we say about anecdotes? It is the lowest form of evidence.
Let's look at
Oprah
education.
gives away buses. That's education right there.
Even let's look at education. Education was primarily male dominated in the 1850s. So what's happened the last 150 years since women have taken over education? It's terrible.
She says that because of the amount of male teachers in education has declined, education quality itself has declined. That's a funny thing to say, especially when considering that 45% of all US high school teachers is still male. Let's compare this to a country or countries that have more women teachers. Here the education is far better than that in the US, and additionally also has 75% of all teachers being female. The same trend continues throughout all of Scandinavia.
What percent of men? What,
You have to speak into the
so they
mic.
surveyed 5,000 men in 2023, and they said, what percent of you have had multiple sexual partners in the past year? Only 10% of men have had multiple sexual partners in the past year.
I believe
Only
that.
10% of men can even cheat.
Yeah.
Only 33% of men have ever reported to having multiple sexual partners.
10%.
Only
Top 1% YouTube famous.
only 33% of men have answered to having multiple sexual partners in their lifetime.
Yeah.
So only 1 out of 3 men can even cheat, and the majority of cheating is a one-time thing. So this idea, just because we're all dating the same men, it does not mean the majority of men are cheating.
Okay, well, this statistic is just straight up wrong. This is a study she's referring to, and it just doesn't say it at all. The actual statistic is that only 11% of all men have had one sexual partner in their lifetime.
It was May 25th.
Yes, May-
Now, women born on May 25th, they have evil energy.
Guys,
And he was right about that.
Guys, I want you to listen to me. I've been doing numerology and astrology for 20 years. If there's a bitch born on May 25th, run. Run like hell.
I learned the hard way. I said, fuck do you know, Gary? And I ran out the hole.
If there's a date that's possessed, it's May 25th, man.
So there's this little story about a false allegation, and then this dude just comes up and starts talking about astrology. I didn't know if he was serious or not at first, but then he just kept talking about astrology for like a minute and a half, so I think he's serious. I don't even have to debunk that. I mean, just one simple Google search will tell you that it's dead wrong.
To your question first, because you asked, why is there this distrust in men? It's because women respond really quickly to propaganda, and
Finally, something that is truthful. Women are indeed more susceptible to propaganda.
that women are actually more violent than men, yet men are always the ones accused of abuse.
Okay, just simply not true. Men are more aggressive than women.
Because what is true violence? Who kills the innocent? Women kill even babies after they're born and the elderly more than men. It's not even close.
Except men murder more than women in general.
Then we look at abusive relationships when it's one-sided, meaning one party's hitting the other and they're not just you know some couples, they just beat each other up like Krishan, Blueface.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But when it's one-sided, it's 70% of the time it's the women. And if you want to include underreported, like I would argue it's underreported because men aren't really going to report it like women are. I would argue it's higher than that. Women are very, very, yeah. And I would even argue that there's more.
But women also get more abused in general. So someone made a great video about this and going all over the statistics. It was me.
Every mom is like going to be violent, but I'm saying by and large, women are much more violent than men. It's like not even close.
Okay, so is this reflected by whatever she blabbered? Women are less aggressive than men personality-wise, men murder more than women, and women get abused. So it logically follows that women are not more violent than men are.
You know, who's controlling.
Wait a second. Who's teaching this garbage to their kids? It's
Are
not
they-
it's not men who are promoting homosexuality. It is women who are promoting homosexuality. It's the school kids, the teachers who are promoting that garbage
You
to
don't
kids.
think it's our culture and their
It is both men and women to teach this homosexuality you're talking about.
Wait, who makes the culture? Who is the culture
government.
catering to? No, who are they catering to? Who is the
I don't
culture?
know. I think they're trying to distract society and they're trying to destruct the family
This is
unit.
another way that women like dodge accountability. Women are the culture. Women transplant the culture. Women are the ones that are raising the kids. And on top of that, the media is catering to women. And so we always blame like our poor decisions when really it's like everything's catering to the
That's
women.
what I'm trying to say is the media, which
Culture is run by women. What the fuck is this claim even? It's because the media caters to women. You look at the definition. How does this even make sense? The media is part of culture, not the culture itself.
Close the damn legs.
I agree with that. I don't
There
think.
you go.
Yeah, I
As
agree
long
with
as
that.
the legs are closed, we
But-
won't have any of these issues.
But that's my point. Is like we always push it back on the men somehow. Like
I think
always.
it's both to blame. I mean,
How is it men are to blame? I don't understand. If a woman keeps your legs closed,
What?
how is a man to blame for
Fight
anything?
her,
now
Gary.
we're talking about sex. I'm talking about
It
education
all
in the
comes
media.
down to that. It all comes down to that.
Men also have choices, and men have allowed the women to go.
Men have
rogue.
always been pigs. It's only when the women became
Only,
pigs too.
again,
that's when the whole goddamn problem
But
started.
we just went through the
Oink,
stats. Only
oink.
10% of women or of men have had more.
If only things go wrong when both sexes are being pigs, wouldn't it also just work when men stop being pigs?
Went through the
Oink,
stats. Only
oink.
10% of women or of men have had more than one sexual partner in the past year.
Well, but
So that's
culturally
90%.
Culturally speaking,
Pearl, I'm actually astonished by how intellectually dishonest you are. The same study that you quote shows that only 8.4% of women had more than one sexual partner in the last year. This would mean that men are worse than women in this aspect. Okay, so I've had enough of the brain rot that is Pearl, so I'll move on to the Fresh and Fit podcast. This is the video that I'll be watching.
Look, women are born with value. Men are not. Men have to go through trials and tribulations to earn their ability to have value, to even have a woman even take them seriously.
No,
Women
that's
are born with
society.
value.
Born with value would mean that a child is also valuable. I don't think anyone values a male child less than a female child. You could argue that the female child would get more attention, etc. But that's not the discussion here. He means value in the sexual marketplace. I get the point he's trying to make, but it's just too simplistic of a model. Also flawed. You should rethink the points and come up with a more accurate model instead of spewing these one-liners that are just nonsensical.
Will you not agree that men have to go through more trials and tribulations to be attracted to the opposite gender?
Sure.
Mature older man in his 30s should not and will not be entertained by an 18-year-old. Like,
I mean, we have.
What if I
Should
told you,
not.
hold on.
He will,
Let me ask
he
you
will.
this. What if I told you you shouldn't be entertained by a guy that's 6'3", multi-millionaire, successful? How would
that's
that
your
sound?
opinion.
No. What if I told you that? What if I told you that?
Okay,
Wouldn't
you're
that
telling
sound
me.
kind of ludicrous?
If that's what you
Roll
want to
out.
say, then
I think he imagines 18-year-olds to be way more attractive than they actually are. Also, comparing the attractiveness of a 6'3" millionaire to a person that could be one day away from being illegal is kind of weird. In order to check whether they are correct or not, I found a study that looked whether people found older people to be more or less attractive. The steps they took in the study of categories of ages were between 29 and 20, 55 and 35, and 60 plus, which obviously people would find the youngest faces the most attractive. The point being made here is that a 25-year-old would be less attractive than an 18-year-old. But to be fair, in this study it has been found that women don't care as much about age, but still overall everyone found older people to be less attractive than the younger ones. Also, kind of funny, women found men to be just generally less attractive. Well, why is this difference in perception? I don't remember the studies being done, but I had a course on this in my first year of uni. Women tend to think about men more in a relationship context, and men more about women in a sexual encounter context. So when questions like these are framed, women think about having a relationship with the guy that she's imagining, and men think about having sex with the person that he's imagining. When clarified in studies, the gender difference disappears in found attractiveness for different aspects. These slam dunks are easily made when thinking of different contexts.
We have.
What if I
Should
told you,
not.
hold on.
He will,
Let me ask
he
you
will.
this. What if I told you you shouldn't be entertained by a guy that's 6'3", multi-millionaire, successful? How would
that's
that
your
sound?
opinion.
No. What if I told you that? What if I told you that?
Okay,
Wouldn't
you're
that
telling
sound
me.
kind of ludicrous?
If that's what you
Roll
want to
out.
say, then it is what it is.
No, I'm telling you.
Myron is probably thinking about smashing an attractive 18-year-old as opposed to marrying a funny, smart 30-year-old woman. The girl is probably thinking about having a relationship with a 30-year-old smart and funny guy instead of smashing an attractive 18-year-old boy.
Master's degree girl, you said his is an opinion, but you speak like yours is objective fact.
That's how you all have been speaking this whole night.
Yes.
He's reading objective fact. He's reading statistics. You're the opinionated.
From his head.
And you know
That's
men
what they
hate.
did.
Okay, so you've probably noticed this guy sitting in this podcast and the other podcast as well. He's Zerka. I don't know much about him besides that he's just a giant troll. I don't take anything he says seriously, and that's why I haven't put any clips of him in this video so far. Just so you know, I'm not ducking his arguments, I'm just not taking them even remotely serious. Just like in this clip, he's referring to statistics that have just never been mentioned. Or else I could have just falsified them. Although to be fair, he's hilarious at times.
History is different. You think differently, and she thinks differently because you're different sexes. Men and women have different ideals and feel things
men
differently.
think rationally and logically.
Winners
but
and
that's
losers.
not- hey, I listen to all y'all's.
Men think logically and women think emotionally. This is just a claim that I've heard over and over and over and over again from the Red Pill community. I mean, it's a stereotype. For the record, this is different from being emotional. Thinking and being emotional are two completely different things. They obviously don't come up with any evidence for this whatsoever. I've still investigated it. This is a hard thing to check because you can't really see into the thoughts of people, and I've thought about using emotional regulation for this, but that's not really your thought process, so I found something better to reflect it, I think. I decided that this would be best measured through ethics, and I found a great paper on this. You should read it. I give special mention to this because I really enjoyed reading it, and I think you would too. It has some really interesting things in it, and yeah, you should read it. It appears that ethically, men and women do act differently and think differently in different emotional situations, but if it wasn't emotional, it would just be the same. So if there's emotions involved, men and women would act differently. This could bleed into different areas of life. I could investigate this further, of course, but this is not a deep investigation of thinking patterns, because that would be a cool video on its own to make.
Who's a more capable leader? Someone who thinks logically, or someone who thinks emotionally?
Somebody who
If you're meaning men versus women, there has been done a meta-analysis that shows they're equally as effective.
I mean, but if you have to pick one, who's going to be the more capable leader? The person who makes emotionally charged decisions, or someone who's more logically sound?
Okay, but this question is going towards the topic at hand, because that's about a leader question, not about what we were talking about. If we're talking about a government leader or a person who is trying to lead me in something, whether it's female or male.
We're talking about male and female intersexual dynamics.
He's not talking about Bernie Sanders, bro.
I understand that, but I'm saying that if I have
I've seen a lot of articles stating that women are more effective leaders, or vice versa, but I'm hesitant to accept this because there's a lot of interest involved in viewing one or the other sexes as a more effective leader. Therefore, we jump to a higher form of scientific analysis, and that is a meta-analysis, which shows that they're equally as effective.
I'm stating absolute irrefutable facts.
Fucking finally. Let's put it in premises and a conclusion and just lay it out.
Men and women are inherently different. This is why men need to be leaders, because men are more logically sound. She made a bunch of emotional arguments that don't make sense, and she's incorrect.
Premise 1. Men and women are different. Sure. Premise 2. Men are more rational than women. Well, semantically this is just not true, but it is true that men tend to think more rationally in emotional situations. And then for the conclusion, men are better and more effective leaders. Well, this is not true according to the meta-analysis we've found already, and it also doesn't follow from the premises.
Okay, who controls who has sex, men or women?
Women.
Okay,
I don't know.
Would it be fair to say that here at the table, women control who fucks?
Yes.
Cool.
Maybe.
Who controls who gets relationships,
Men.
or women?
men.
Wow. Okay, would you all agree at the table that women are the gatekeepers to sex and men are the gatekeepers to relationships?
No.
Sometimes.
Yes.
I think everyone is a gatekeeper to whatever they want.
Do men control the relationships and women's sex? Well, this is just a mind-numbingly dumb question to ask, since always two parties have to consent. For the sex part, I could honestly see him being kind of right, since men are pretty desperate to fuck any women they can, so women are the biggest filter here. For the relationship, men ask women, generally, to be in a relationship with them, and doesn't the woman have to say yes, and so she agrees? Since they like anecdotals, how many men you know have been rejected from going out with a woman? For a couple of self-proclaimed high-value men, they say very little value.
So anyway,
papers are
so
real.
okay, except for her, would the rest of you agree that women controls who fucks, men controls who gets relationships?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yes.
Cool. So by you asking him if he's single, that's like me asking you, are you fucking people right now?
False equivalency. Okay, so the pattern here is that Myron uses flawed logic. He picks false premises and draws upon that false conclusion. It is as simple as that. He just dunks on these women who have never been specialized, obviously, in any of this stuff that he debates on daily, and his audience just eats up all of the dunks. But hey, at least it's better than Pearl.
Guys that have options are gonna they're gonna be like, okay, who do I want? Do I want this educated, rambunctious, argumentative, assertive, independent woman? Or do I want this girl that's young, docile, not a pain in the ass, gonna follow my lead, be an asset to my life versus a liability? They're gonna go with the latter.
Actually true. Men and women value agreeableness very much in a partner. I actually agree with him on the next part, partly, but without the rough edges.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Feminine men do.
Feminism, what it basically did was it gave all the power to a small minority of men that now control the sexual marketplace, because all the women that are high earners, that are successful, that, you know, bought the lie of get a career and make money, become successful, guess what? Now they've outpriced themselves out of the dating marketplace, and the only guys that do it for them are the guys that make more money than them, more successful than them, etc. Those guys aren't going to commit. They're going to fucking go to the next girl. So feminism has really hurt women the most.
This is valid logic, so let's put it in premises and conclusions and lay it out again.
I'm going to tell you right now.
Feminine men do.
Feminism, what it basically did was it gave all the power to a small minority of men that now control the sexual marketplace, because all the women that are high earners, that are successful, that, you know, bought the lie of get a career and make money, become successful, guess what? Now they've outpriced themselves out of the dating marketplace, and the only guys that do it for them are the guys that make more money than them, more successful than them, etc. Those guys aren't going to commit. They're going to fucking go to the next girl. So feminism has really hurt women the most. I'm asking you, because you said that the world is against women and women are oppressed. Cool. Since women are oppressed and the world is against women, I'm asking you it's a very simple question. Name one right or privilege that men have over women besides the ability to have sex without being judged with a lot of partners.
For this whole line of questioning, and her side as well, I'll refer to this beautifully made video. I wanted to review another red pillar, but I know very few. I checked the saint and the sinner and the rational male, but I feel like they wouldn't be appropriate. The saint and the sinner just doesn't say anything of actual substance and just only rhetoric, and the rational male bumps out a video of 3.5 hours about a theory that has been debunked in the 60s. I find the two 30-minute sections of Fresh and Fit and just Pearly Things already mind-running enough, and I didn't really feel like reviewing another 3.5-hour video. I also can't watch just a little section and be intellectually dishonest to him. I hope the two red pillars we checked today show already a general trend. I hope you learned something from this, and have a good day.